In today's session, we are going to talk about kind of continuous deployment, introduction to continuous deployment, and then what Flyway can offer to you. In between the session, as always, if you have any doubts, please stop and ask questions, no problem. We will stop and then answer your question, then move on. That's the idea. Okay, today we are going to talk about a specific problem. What is continuous deployment? Can anybody tell me what is continuous deployment? What do you want to achieve with continuous deployment?
When you do the deployment, actually everything should, and you should ideally run everything and the deployment should be successful. So this is what we understand by like very much like continuous integration, right? So
okay, very good good point, Vaibhav. In fact, this is again an interview question. What is the difference between CI/CD is a very common question where we tend to make mistakes. So continuous integration is the process of integrating your code. Every time you make a change, you want to verify that the code built properly, all the test cases are passing, there is no conflict, all this that you want to do, that is continuous integration. Continuous integration is more to do with your development, your engineering team. Continuous deployment is the place, it's the next step of continuous integration where you are deploying the software to the end user. So that is a place where CD comes into picture. In order to reach CD, CI is fundamental. You need to have the proper CI pipeline, but CD is just after your CI all done actually. For a change, today we are going to use VS Code as our IDE. Usually we use IntelliJ. Today I'm using VS Code as an IDE. And incidentally, none of the participants mentioned VS Code. So that shows the popularity of VS Code. But just remember, VS Code is very good in many of the areas actually. VS Code is good for Java also. Java support is just coming up now. Now what we will do is in continuous deployment, what happens is you continuously deploy your software. That's the idea. So when you continuously deploy it, there are challenges, right? For example, if you have a local software installed locally, if there is a new version coming in, there is an alert box that is popping up saying that there is a new version. Do you want to install it? You will go ahead and then install it. What happens behind the screen when you install it? It is updating your scripts. It's updating your binaries. But one most important thing is your previous data models might have changed in the new version. That migration should also happen. So bottom line, in an enterprise system, when we say we are migrating from the old version to the new version, the starting point of your migration is going to be database, because that's the place where all your business data resides in. So that is the critical part of it. In a typical world, how we do this data migration is we need some superheroes in our team. They all are like they sit at the DBA level, are very highly skilled people. What they do is they do the deployments for us. They stop the server. They run this batch scripts, and we will have n number of reviews, and then we will make mistakes, we will correct the mistakes, and then we will deploy it. So the release process, that is deployment process, becomes as if like it's a big festival. But let us do it as a normal event. In order to do that, how do you do? Your migration starts from database. There are a lot of other migrations also that we'll see later. But in today's topic, we are going to specifically talk about how migrations happen with your databases. If you are familiar with any of the open source projects like Flowable or any other projects, if you look at it, they keep changing their data model. They are depending on RDBMS. How they do that is because of these kind of tools that we are going to talk about. Flyway is one of that tool. It helps you to migrate databases. Let me know if you are able to see my browser. Okay, so we are going to talk about Flyway. There are other tools also, Flyway, or there is a tool called, these are all the tools that will help you for this purpose. But before we get into the tool, let us not focus on the tool first. Let us look at the purpose first. What is the purpose that they are trying to solve? For our demo, I'm going to use a very simple application. I don't have any Docker running now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start an Postgres database. This is my database. So let us start the database. So in this database, I have a schema called PracticeDB. And then this will have, by default, it's a fresh schema. It is not supposed to have any data. Let us look at the data. Now you see, okay. So as I keep saying, whenever we learn a new technology, we will learn with as minimum as possible. Let us not think about the application code and all those stuff. We'll keep it very simple. Now I have a Docker Compose file where I have a PracticeDB. This is the PracticeDB. On your right side that you see, this is the PracticeDB. Now in this, there are no tables. But I'm going to start an application, and this application needs some tables to be available. This is basically an example. So we need tables for creating exams and all those stuff. That I keep in a file in an SQL script, obviously. So I'm keeping it in this SQL script. Now this is all that we have. Now the idea is now this script has to be given to the DBA, and then he has to deploy it, and then he should start the application. So one of the aspects that I told about Spring Boot, it's not just Spring Boot. We are moving towards a cloud native application. One basic nature of cloud native application is your application has to be self-contained. Application should manage within everything within itself, versions, upgrades, configurations, everything. So now we are going to look at the version specifically. Now we will start the application, but I actually forgot to run the script, right? The database was empty. So application is going, because for my application to run, I need all these tables. If these tables are not available, then my application should fail. That's my expectation. So I started the application. This guy should fail now. But it started the application. How come it started the application? Okay, let me see. Well, my database was empty. It's supposed to, okay, the tables are created. Okay, and here is the place where Flyway comes into picture. Now let us look at the log. So let us look at the log. This is all okay, but then here Flyway starts. So what is this Flyway trying to do? Flyway understands from your application that, okay, you need PostgreSDB. And then it treats by convention, this is the convention that we'll see in detail later. But then it is looking into a folder called DB migration and then seeing, okay, there is an SQL file. And this SQL file is not processed yet. So it started that SQL file for you. It just uploaded that SQL file. So after that, it identified that successfully validated one migration. And then it ran that migration script, and then it starts the application. Here is what it's creating it. Okay, so is it only for create? Now let us see the continuous deployment case. I'm going to make a change to the SQL script, and I'm thinking that I started the application, but later I realized that actually I don't need this table called exams. So what shall we do? But everything else should be there. But this is the only thing that I want to do. Now I'm going into that folder, new file, v2__ my upgrade SQL, and I'm going to drop this. Okay, now again, in an earlier traditional world, what you do is to do continuous deployment. You continuously ask people to do it. Now we'll see what is happening now. Command V and J. I'm stopping the application. This is considered that it is your deployment where in your AWS or Azure cloud, you stop the application, put the new version of the application. Now I'm going to put the new version of the application. So I'm starting the application now. By the way, whatever we do, it is nothing to do with Spring Boot. Let us not confuse this concept with Spring Boot. This is there for anything, even plain Java you can do, Quarkus you can do, Vertex you can do, everywhere it will be there. Okay, you cannot drop the table. The reason being, this table is being referred by some other people. So this is actually a failure. What shall we do? Let us look at the table that is a higher level table. Say for example, I don't want to remove this. I want to remove answer. Basically what is happening now is, it is not simply running it. If it is an error, it did not even start the application. That's the thing that you need to observe. Okay, now it should go. Okay, so if you look at it, it is using Spring Boot, and then it is checking for that. It is connecting to Flyway. Successfully validated 2 migrations, and then it applies only that we are looking at. Okay, now it did run that. That is what it says. Whether it ran it or not, let us confirm with this database. Answers is deleted. Okay, yeah, this is one basic case. Now, what happens later? I want to.
Satish, where we configured that one, like how it is got deleted and all. We configured somewhere in that one Flyway communication something. Is it helping us to do that one? Or
it's a Flyway convention basically. That I will explain.
Okay.
How it works, I'm going to explain now.
Okay.
So now one thing that we need to note here. Okay. later we realized that this v1 detail itself has a problem. So let us, I think this guy should have another field called say script2. I missed it, I made a mistake. So I'm going to correct that mistake. And then I'm expecting that maybe should be able to get this change. I'm starting the application. Yes, starting the application. So what I did just now is, I found that there is a mistake that I did in one of my SQL migration scripts, and I changed my migration script, and Playway will not allow you to start. The reason being, it is not just an SQL script that it just simply runs it. It checks for the checksum of the value, which means if you had a script and then you ran that script already and you are modifying an existing script, it will not allow you. So the point that you need to remember here is, in order to make this clean, it's append only. The scripts are supposed to be incremental only. You can't just go back on time. If you want to do this change, the only way that you can do is you can alter table and then make it as another file. For example, you need to introduce v3 alter SQL, and then you need to use this alter table add column so and so. So the point that you need to note here is it should be always an incremental update. So for every release, what you are doing is you are just giving an extra set of SQL file. This is how the magic of continuously updating your enterprise application is happening behind the screen. And this is the place where this kind of Playway or Liquibase comes into picture. So this is the purpose that this guy is trying to solve, and this is how it is trying to solve. Any doubts so far on the problem that it is trying to address?
So
I think you can also
like v3 has to be run this time.
Yeah, only v3 will run now, because okay, let us now look into the how part of it, how it actually internally works. Okay, first thing, it need to detect that files, right? So how it detects that file is, now I'm going to revert all the changes that I did just now. Let us start from the beginning and let us see what is this doing for you. So for our understanding, I'm going to start from the scratch now. I'm saying Docker compose stop and Docker compose, because sometimes it will not remove the data. So I want to be sure about this. So I'm doing my Postgres completely deleted out. Now I'm going to start the Docker compose up. So now I should have the fresh Postgres DB. Let us see what is the database that we have now. If you connect, disconnect, connect, this should not have any tables. Okay, there are no tables. There are no tables. Okay, now let us look at our project structure. So here inside our SRC resources, I keep a folder called DB migration. This is how Playway integration works. So there are only two things that I do. One is in form.xml, I have added this Playway code. This is the extra dependency that I've had. And this is specific to Spring Boot actually. Then it's by convention, it will be looking for a folder db/migration and it will be looking for your scripts. Now when you start the application, it detects that okay, Playway code is there. Remember about starters, right? So the starter form will check, okay, there is a Playway requirement. And for Playway, I need the database connection. So how do I check the database connection? Because again, here in your database, you have what database? Okay, you have Postgres. Okay, understand that there is a Postgres. After that, it needs to know where exactly this database is there. Then it will check this application.properties, and then you have given your database. So this is how it obtains your database connection. Now the database connection is there. What kind of file that I need to run? It's inside this DB migration, so it is going to run from here. Now when you start the application,
Satish, how it will find? Like automatically it will detect like in the resource DB migration based on the naming convention?
Yes, by default this is a convention, but you can change it. So this is how Spring Boot works, right? It works by convention. It expects that okay, you add this form dependency, you keep these files in so and so folder, then I will pick it up for you. But if you want to tweak it, you can tweak it. But again, remember this concept is not specific to Spring Boot. Playway can be used as a standalone solution also.
Okay, Satish, here my query is like the resource DB migration is there, right? It's kind of, I need to follow the same way if I need to use the Playway. If I use like a DB, I didn't didn't use slash migration, it won't work, or how it will be?
It will work, but you need to configure it. Saying that, okay,
Where
where you need to go and change it.
application.properties.
Application properties, yes.
Okay.
Options that you need to configure it.
Okay.
This is all customizable.
Okay.
But by default, it's better to follow the convention. That's the
Okay.
whole purpose. So now I'm going to start the application. Let us just watch for what is happening just now. It is saying that, okay, it's detecting that there's a Flyway requirement, there is a Postgres database, and there is application.properties that points to the database. And that is how it is picking it up. And then it is looking into this folder also. Okay, see, Flyway Community Edition, it starts, then it is identifying your database here, and then saying, okay, there is one migration, I'm successfully doing that migration. Okay, now let us look at how Flyway remembers all these concepts. I ran this, I did not run this was a error. How it remembers is, if you go to your tables, okay, this is answer table that you created, exam table you created, exam scripts you created, questions you created, but there is another guy, Flyway schema history. And this stores all the information that Flyway needs. All the database that you connect, Flyway will store this information. And this tracks your changes. This is how Flyway is able to detect that, okay, this is the current version of the application. This is how I need to migrate it. In some cases, for a specific customer, what happens is you might migrate from 1 to 2. But for some customer, they might be there for longer time, but by the time you are releasing 5, then they need to migrate not from 1 to 5 directly. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So that steps it plans based on this particular table that you see here. Let us just watch what is there in this table. Let me know. See, this is how it shows the information. And this is the information. See, this is the file that I ran. This is the checksum value. This is how it traces. Next time, if the checksum values changed, it detects and then complains you saying that you modified a file that you're not supposed to modify. This is how Flyway works. Not just Flyway, that DB migration process works. Any doubts so far?
I think one of the hacks that we use is to mark the success field as failure to rerun that script again.
Yeah,
modified it.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. There are some, say for example, there are some topics where sometimes your migration is not specific to database alone. You need to do some custom steps. That you can do a hook with Java code in Flyway. Your own logic that you want to put for retry, all that logic that you can put.
How can we roll back to previous, let's say V1, V2, V3, you want to come back to V2?
Rollback option I have not tried directly. I think you need to write a custom hook for that. Usually it is always for the move forward, or otherwise if there is an error, it will fail first. Okay. So still there are you need to manage your databases. It's not free. Basically it takes a lot of your hard steps within itself, but still there are areas that you need to be very cautious about.
I think we always had this issue of rolling back, and we never been able to succeed to do this. I think the only hack is basically through this part 5 schema history table. Where
okay.
You delete these records.
Okay, in fact, it's a very nice question. Who asked this question? Who just asked this question?
Jigar this side.
Jigar, okay, fine. So Jigar, just consider logically, okay? We just see that how it works, okay? Considering that this is how it works, it's always up and only. Let me know what do you think about rollback. How do you do the rollback? Just logically. If you don't want to put any custom implementation, you want to go with the same structure. Basically, what you can do is, if it is a rollback, the rollback script has to be the next version, and then deploy the application.
Yes, correct.
That's the only way that you can do. But let us see why this rollback came into picture. Those are all the things that I'm going to explain now. Considering that this is how the system works, let us consider a basic mistakes that people do here. In fact, with that mistakes, it's better not to have Flyway, in fact, in some cases. And because if you don't understand that this is how it is working and you are breaking the rule, probably you'll be inviting more problems if you're using still these kind of setups. So one of the very common mistakes that people do is, now we just talked about how this up and only concept works. Everything is going to be up and only. But then here comes the problem. Now, what happens is when you run a project with distributed teams, sometimes people take it for granted. They want to add new column, remove a column or something like that. It's simple. They just keep adding like that, n number of files that you can add. Okay. But remember, this is going to slow down your application. When application starts, if the more number of scripts is there, that much of checks has to be done. So the good practice here is, you in between a release, for example, you have a 2-month release cycle. In between a release, always have a watch on the number of times that you go and change the databases. You put a restriction on that. If you can't avoid it, just keep watching that. But at the end of the release, don't just go with the new versions that you created. For example, if you have a new file, say for example, v2 so and so .sql, and then v3 _ so and so .sql. What you need to do as an architect is, you need to merge these things together and put it as, for example, at the end of the release, it should go only one. Okay. So that you need to always put a check. It's not free. You need to check the number of database modification. You need to still restrict it, and you need to know the cost that if you keep adding more scripts, it will be a problem. So combine them together into, say for example, this v2.sql. This should be the version that you finally release it. In between, in the development, you may add any number of files. Don't encourage people to add it left and right. That's one thing that we need to be look out for that. The second thing, be wary of this fact. This Flyway user password that you give should have admin privilege, which means it should be able to create your script. But when the username password is given for the application, right, that game should never have the creatable privileges. That's a security breach. So make sure for Flyway you give a specific user password with create the DDL privileges. So Flyway user should have DDL privileges. App user, I'm talking about DB, no DDL access. So this is another practice that it is nice to follow, so that you are sure who modifies what. It's only and in this case, you can specifically mention, say in Spring case, you can say Spring you use for my Flyway. I don't remember the exact property name, but there is facility that will enable you to achieve this, so that your Flyway username password is always different from the normal username password. This is another thing that you can do to safeguard your DDL privileges. And also, again, do not do it at the application level. Don't, if you are working in a microservice environment, don't leave this data models clustered across your multiple projects. Have one project that takes care of your database changes, something like an entity service or something like that. Do your database changes within one project itself. That gives more control. That's another thing that you need to follow. And always plan that there should not be a rollback. If there's a rollback, that also can be append only. Plan that you don't make any issues when you are doing these migrations. These tools can help you, but at the same time, these tools can't save you from all the problems that you create.
I think Satish, I just wanted to share my experience. Like we used Flyway extensively, and in our project, and our database is a cockroach database. So I'm just trying to highlight like some of the issues that we faced. It is one of the concurrency is an issue. So it is with related to the first thing, as you said, like it kind of slow down your applications as your application grow over time. And the second thing we faced, like in terms of a concurrency issue, and what we have done recently is we have kind of separated it out.
Correct.
So as part of our pipeline, we have basically kept it as a DB migration step. So where we have a Flyway base Docker image, and that basically we use to do the Flyway step. So we still have this DB migration folder in our root folder, and then we have a Docker file. So if it finds that Docker image, so then pipeline would basically use that and then run the Flyway step separately, and then the next step would be to basically actually run the application, the main container.
Correct. And also another side of it is if you keep putting these files, right, this is basically a migration script file, but this will ultimately add up to your application jar that you generate. So some people might, for security reasons, I don't want to put the SQL scripts inside jar because anybody can take the jar and then see what is my table structure. If you feel that way, then you can always use the separate project for this.
Satish, I have one small query. While designing a microservice, suppose take an example, is the better way to design a DB related thing as a one microservice, or how it will be, how to design that one?
Different people will have different ideas. It depends on the service, but in general, the good practice is anything to touch your DB, make sure it's a separate isolated microservice. It's always better for the maintainability, because if you lose a control on your DB, it is going to screw up your application in future big time. So it's a good practice to maintain them in a single place.
Okay, you mean to say that all DB related one microservice and all business things another microservice
Yes,
to communicate that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Say in some cases, if your data model changes, some microservice will get affected. It's a very common case. It's a normal case. You can actually expect that. In those cases, you can do that complexity in your pipeline, where you can say that in your continuous deployment pipeline, if entity project is modified, modify these microservices also. That's the easiest way to handle.
Okay. I mean to say that that DB they change it like from SQL to MongoDB or something like that.
No,
In that
not just
scenario.
that. You are changing your data model. Consider that
Okay.
you add your POJO classes. You return some model classes in service A, service B, and these model classes are written against your database. In that case, what you can do is you can deploy. Consider your base microservice is entity service. Whenever an entity service is deployed, you need to inform your pipeline that service A, service B also should be upgraded.
Okay.
Configure in your pipeline. Any other doubts?
Here, if I make it a database is a one separate microservice, then it will be like very, we are splitting lot of things, right? Our microservice is like a small entity. It will fulfill my business requirement. Take an example of I want to get the modem information and update some modem information, something like consider. So if I am fetching the modem information from the database or something, if I created another microservice as a database, then it won't make sense, right? What I feel. So my microservice is end to end one thing it will do. Is that my idea is correct? Or if I go for fetching one thing, database one thing, it's kind of nano services.
That's what I told you. It depends on the project to project. In those cases, what you can do is rather you consider, say for example, if you are coming from a Java background, okay, entity you consider not as a service but as a modular jar. Okay, so if this modular jar, you keep your model classes inside that jar. If this jar is modified, attach them to your service A, service B, and keep a separate DB migration project. Am I confusing, or I will?
Yeah. I got it.
So basically, what you need to do is run a DB migration, not even as a service, because you are going to just run it once and then you are going to stop it. It's not basically a service as such, right? It's going to be like, it can be a serverless function also. You just start it, stop it. Okay, but have everything as a single jar file, single artifact, single jar file, single npm or whatever it is, and then attach them with the service. So if you are changing the version in that service, the service will be automatically deployed.
Okay.
The complexity of including into the microservice itself will not come.
Yeah. You mean to say that all DAO layer, anyhow, we have that kind of thing in DAO layer, right? Instead of DAO layer, you are saying that take it out and create either microservice or create some particular jar and put it into the service layer.
That's how you
Okay. Yeah. If I kept it into the same project, what would be the problem is if I want to change any database things at the time same database using multiple microservices, then it will be affect.
Yeah. In some cases, it might be a isolated database also. There's no problem. You can put flavor inside your microservice.
Okay.
Hi, Satish.
Yeah.
So the question I have is like, so is this applicable to packages or procedures, triggers like that?
Yeah, everything. If you want to touch your database, do it through the. See, ultimately, you had a SQL files earlier. The way that you package SQL file only changed, so it's applicable to for everything that you do in your DB.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get a chance to evaluate like if there are any other parallel alternate products that you have tried out?
There's Liquibase. That's another thing that you can try. Liquibase is also widely used. Okay. Yeah. With that, thanks for the questions. Please put your questions if you want to answer some other questions also. Please put your question in the chat. We will cover it in the next session. Vaibhav?